Now, I'm sure a lot of people would agree, get round and point out that smoking kills. Yes, we know that. Makes your fingers go yellow, your teeth look like tombstones, and frankly, you end up smelling like Dot Cotton's bed linen. And nobody finds any of that attractive. But, that kind of is mitigated if you're having it outside somewhat. I don't get where they're going with this.
So the thing is, Alex, this is really never really been about health. It's been about behaviour. The argument was made originally with a ban on smoking. It was to protect the health of other people that were workers or visitors. There was never as clear epidemiological evidence of that as there was about first-hand smoking, which is absolutely been corroborated. It's very clear that if you smoke, you're far more likely to be predisposed towards lung cancer, heart disease, and lots of horrible other illnesses. But of course, adults should be allowed to make decisions, and they're often called vices, that could be seen as being silly or stupid or even dangerous to themselves, providing they're not harming anyone else. And now what we've seen is that it's not really about that at all. When you start saying we're going to ban smoking in parks or outside football stadiums, racing tracks, and of course the pub in the garden, it's much more to do with the thing. We don't like that sort of person, that sort of behaviour. And Alex, there's around 13%, I think, of people who smoke in Britain. I mean, it's not like the last bits of legislation have not been impactful enough. They've had an enormous impact on hospitality. As you say, many people more now buy from off licences and drink at home. It has all sorts of other implications about our social fabric, about our rites of passage, about drinking with all sorts of intergenerational people, and also about not having, to behave in a certain way around all of that. Part of our culture, discussion, really, really important issues. But what this really reflects is this idea by some technocrats that actually they know best. And it's not just smoking, Alex. It's also drinking, obsession with units, it's food. But what it means is, are you the right type of person? We can enjoy a glass of claret. We can go on in a limo to go and talk about, net zero. You, the mob, the great unwashed, you need to have behaviour modification. We're going to impose these limits. Now, you could encourage people not to smoke. You could say, look, it's really not healthy. But also there's a payoff, right? People get some pleasure from some things. And they have to be allowed to make decisions that we might think are silly, right? That's the whole point about enlightened attitudes, such as tolerance. You tolerate things, but you could argue critically against them. And what we're seeing now, Alex, right, which I'm very concerned about, is this sense that we're going to have impositions coming along. At the same time, whilst let's be honest, right, you're saying you're going to have these measures. Who's going to pay for this, right? Are you really going to imprison people or give them fines, or are you going to penalise venues, which is what's been happening? And it's going to be penalising venues, increasingly asking them to take responsibility for individual action, which is also dangerous because under English law, the individual should be responsible for their behaviour. But we've had venues being held accountable for things that have happened outside venues, down the road, and even at home. And there's this constant pressure of suffocation, of limits, restrictions, that these technocrats who aren't going to build new hospitals or get productivity going, but much more it's about you're doing the wrong kind of behaviour. And it's also based on a really spurious idea, right? Actually, lots of studies have shown that this isn't going to relieve pressure on the NHS, as though that would be a reason to do it in any case. And where have we heard this before? Let's save the NHS. But and so on every metric, this is very, very problematic. It's regressive. And actually, we'd encourage it together, people to actually argue back against this, write to councillors and MPs, but also I think we need to do a bit of mobilisation, have people stand and assert themselves and say, we're not going to have the busybody nanny state do this. It should focus its attention elsewhere.